What if the secret to never getting angry again had nothing to do with controlling your temper, counting to 10, or breathing exercises? What if the people who seem completely unbothered by insults, criticism, and betrayal had undergone a specific psychological transformation that most of us never even knew was possible? Carl Jung discovered something so unsettling about these individuals that he described his own findings as disturbing. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what he found and how you can use it to become virtually untouchable emotionally. Jung spent years working with patients in clinical settings, and during that time, he noticed something remarkable. Certain individuals were completely immune to the emotional chaos that controlled everyone around them. They didn't suppress their feelings. They didn't practice cold detachment. Something fundamentally different had happened inside their psychology. Jung called this quality emotional impermeability, and the more he studied it, the more he realized it represented one of the highest levels of human psychological development. The story that launched this entire discovery began with a patient who came to Jung not because he was suffering, but because his total emotional calm was making the people around him deeply uncomfortable. This man had built a successful business in post-war Germany. Insults rolled off him. Criticism sparked curiosity rather than defensiveness. When his wife revealed she'd been having an affair, he responded with 3 measured questions instead of rage. Jung quickly realized this man was not broken or numb. He'd learned something extraordinary. What Jung uncovered first was what he called the shadow mirror effect. Every single person who manages to anger or upset you is actually reflecting a part of your own unconscious back at you. Think about that for a moment. The coworker who dismisses your contributions triggers you because somewhere inside, you fear you're not enough. The person who is always late irritates you because it mirrors your own need to feel in control. The family member who constantly questions your choices stings because it echoes your own hidden self-doubt. When you learn to look at your triggers this way, the entire experience of being provoked transforms completely. You stop seeing an enemy and start seeing a mirror. And mirrors can't hurt you. They can only show you what is there. Jung developed a 3-question process to work through this. When something triggers you, ask yourself, what trait in this person am I judging most intensely? Do I exhibit this same quality anywhere in my own life, even subtly? And what is this reaction trying to teach me about myself? Those 3 questions alone, practiced consistently, can begin dismantling the emotional landmines that other people seem to step on constantly. Now here is where things get even more interesting, and this is the part that I personally find absolutely fascinating. Jung identified what he called the reaction gap. Most people experience a trigger and a reaction as one seamless, automatic event. Something happens, and they explode. But the individuals Jung studied had discovered a psychological space between the trigger and the response, a gap where conscious choice lives. One of his patients described it as time slowing down, as if he could see the incoming words hovering in the air before deciding whether to let them land. That is not metaphor. That is the actual felt experience of someone who has learned to inhabit the reaction gap. Jung found that most people could begin accessing this space within weeks of deliberate practice, simply by pausing when triggered, taking one conscious breath, observing the emotional reaction as if watching it from outside yourself, and then choosing your action based on your values rather than your impulse. Before we go further, I want to mention something important. If this kind of content speaks to you, please subscribe to this channel, because we consistently dive deep into psychology, self-mastery, and the mental frameworks that actually change how you experience your life. Several times per week, there is something new that could genuinely shift your perspective. Hit that subscribe button now so you never miss it. Now, Jung also documented what he called boundary fortresses. These are not physical boundaries. They are psychological structures that determine what is allowed to enter your inner world and affect your emotional state. His most emotionally resilient patients had built 3 specific types of these internal barriers. The first was a relevance filter, where they only absorbed information that actually served their growth or goals. Everything else was noted, but not internalized. The second was an ownership boundary, which allowed them to clearly distinguish between their own emotions and the emotions someone else was projecting onto them. The third was what Jung called an identity fortress, a rock-solid sense of self so stable that external criticism could not shake the foundation of who they were. They could hear negative feedback without interpreting it as a verdict on their worth as a human being. Here is something that will genuinely rewire how you see conflict. Jung discovered that when someone attacks you, they are almost never really talking about you. They are talking about themselves. He called this projection reversal. The colleague who tears down your work is usually wrestling with their own insecurities about their competence. The person who mocks your success is fighting their own sense of failure. When you train yourself to see the psychological wound driving an attack rather than just the attack itself, it becomes nearly impossible to take things personally. You start feeling something closer to curiosity and even compassion rather than anger. The final layer of what Jung uncovered was perhaps the most powerful of all. He called it emotional alchemy. The most psychologically developed individuals he worked with had stopped merely tolerating their triggers. They'd learned to actively mine them for growth. Every difficult person became a teacher. Every frustrating interaction became data. Every triggered reaction became a signal pointing toward a weakness that could be transformed into strength. They turned the entire concept of being bothered completely on its head. This is exactly the kind of deep psychological work that connects to something we want to share with you. If you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like you keep reading books and listening to advice without seeing real change in your life, it's probably because you're missing a complete system rather than just fragments of wisdom. The self-mastery system was built specifically for this. It's a comprehensive personal development toolkit that includes 30 structured guides and over 210 interactive components, all designed to help you master your mindset, eliminate the self-doubt that makes you reactive and stuck, build habits that actually compound over time, and design a life of genuine purpose rather than endless busyness. This is not another quick-fix course. It's a cohesive blueprint for real transformation, the kind Jung would have recognized as actual psychological development. You can find all the details in the description below. Now, bringing everything together, Jung's work reveals that emotional immunity is not a personality trait you either have or do not have. It's a developed skill built through shadow work, through learning to inhabit the gap between trigger and response, through constructing psychological boundaries and learning to see projection for what it is. The endpoint of this journey is what Jung called the compassionate warrior, someone who cannot be destabilized emotionally, but who remains fully warm, present, and connected to the people around them. Not cold, not distant, just unshakable. You're not a victim of your emotional reactions. You never were. The question is whether you're ready to do the inner work that reclaims your power over them. Now, if this video stirred something in you, there is one more you absolutely need to watch right now. It's showing on your screen, and it's all about how to improve your motivation, because understanding what truly drives you from the inside is the natural next step after building emotional resilience. Without genuine motivation, even the best psychological tools sit unused. Go watch it now. You won't regret it.